Hello, and welcome to the Lean IT Foundations training hosted by End User Services Process Improvement Team. This training program is designed to be delivered over 11 sessions. In section 1, we will be focused on continuous improvement. We'll start off with an introduction to continuous improvement. There will be an optional video to watch on Lean in action. We will cover Lean versus Six Sigma, which is also an optional course. In section 2, we'll dive into the systems and tools used in process improvement. We'll cover the PDCA and DMAIC or DMAIC methodologies. There will be an optional course on 5S. Section 3 will dive into the dimensions of Lean IT, starting with customers, process, organization, performance, behavior, and attitude. Section 4 will be a study guide review for those that are taking this course in preparation for a Lean IT Foundations certificate exam. Let's get started. Welcome to the Lean IT Foundations course hosted by End User Services Process Improvement Team. In this section, we will be focused on the introduction to continuous improvement. Section 1A, Introduction to Continuous Improvement. I am your host. My name is Anthony McCollum. I am a process improvement specialist with End User Services. The Section 1A agenda is very simple. First, we'll talk about what Lean is. We'll dive in to discuss waste in detail. We'll talk a little bit about the history of Lean and discuss a little bit of Lean terminology. But before we dive into it, I'd like to talk a little bit about why we are here. Over the course of these 11 sessions, we're going to talk a lot about tools and ideology as it relates to Lean. But the most important thing about Lean in an organization is to develop people within the organization to start thinking Lean, to start looking at problems in new ways. When companies are starting off or advancing in their Lean journey, the most challenging task will be to get employees at all levels within the organization to start looking at problems, looking at opportunities in new ways. This is the Lean thinking that we are hoping to instill within you and other Lean leaders within the organization. So what is Lean? Lean's a word that's tossed around a lot with executives. Your management team has obviously mentioned it. You may have looked into it. And we may have heard a lot of different definitions of Lean. But at its core, the concept of Lean is to offer more value to our customers. We do this by increasing the value-add steps within our process and eliminating waste within our process. So now that we know that value and increasing value for our customers is the goal of Lean by reducing waste, let's talk about value for a few moments. What is value? What do you think value is as a customer? Well, customers do define value, and we'll talk more about this in subsequent sections to come. But I want to spend a few minutes and talk about value in the eyes of the customer. There are several types of customers, but there are two main ones that we should think about. There are customers that are buying products, and there are customers that are buying services. Whether these are internal products and internal services within an organization, customers are receiving one of the two types of products. Customers will view value in a lot of different ways. I won't cover them all now. We will dive into these in more detail in later sessions. But taking some of the examples on the screen here, we can think that customers may see value in the quality of the product that they are purchasing or receiving. They may see value in the speed at which a product is provided. They may see value in the quality of service providers or the people that are supporting the customers. As an organization, it's our job to try to understand and listen to our customers to get a sense of what they think value is. We talked a little bit about value. We understand that customers can see a lot of different types of value in the products or services they are purchasing, but how do we as an organization offer more value in what we do? Well, we do this by reducing the waste within our process. The waste we're going to focus on in this training are the 8 wastes that we find in any production environment in the world, in any service provider in the world. All types of companies experience these 8 wastes: transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, defects, and the underutilization of skills. To help us remember these 8 wastes, we use the term Tim Woods. So if you're ever wondering if you are seeing waste in a process that you are working on, all you have to do is remember Tim Woods. We're going to dive deeper into these 8 wastes over the next 8 slides. Before we do, I want to introduce our first lean term, and that term is MUDA. MUDA is a term that we will hear a lot when we are implementing lean within an organization. MUDA is a direct translation to waste. MUDA is a Japanese term. And when we dive into the history of lean, we'll talk just briefly about how and why a lot of the terms we experience in lean are Japanese. So let's meet Tim Woods. First up is transportation. Transportation is quite like it sounds. Transportation is the movement of products from point A to point B, from point B to point C, and so forth down the line. Every time we move a physical product from one point to another point, that is transportation waste. Why is transportation one of the 8 wastes? Well, whenever we're thinking about waste, we always need to look at waste from the customer's perspective and ask ourselves, does moving, for example, this computer from the storage room to the customer's desk value in the customer's eyes? Does the customer care that the storage closet is on the 1st floor while the customer is on the 5th floor, and for that reason, it takes an extra 15 minutes to transport their hardware from point A to point B? Does the customer care if we are storing things in an off-site facility and they need to be shipped here, so they may take a few days to get to our customer? In the eyes of the customer, in providing value to the customer, the transportation of these products to our customers is waste. In our customers' eyes, they want something and they want it now. It's our job as providers to reduce the waste that our customers experience, to reduce the amount of time and transportation that it takes for us to get our products to them. Next up, inventory. Inventory is the storage of products that we need to do our jobs. Inventory is waste in a lot of different ways. It takes up space. We have to pay rent to hold inventory and storage. Sometimes we have to move storage around and manage our stores. We have an inventory carrying cost. That is a cost that we could, as a company, use to provide more value to our customers in growing or providing other products and services. But it's tied up in inventory management or the actual cost of inventory. Inventory sitting on a shelf does not provide value to our customers. Our customers do not care if we have 1 computer or 10 computers sitting on a shelf. They just want a computer. It's up to us to manage our inventory as best we can to reduce costs to provide our customers with a product that they need or a piece of equipment that we need to do our job. Motion. Motion is the M in Tim Woods. Motion lives with the person that is completing the task at hand. Motion is the movement that we must do to complete our job or our goal. For example, when we do eventually get our computer to the customer, after we have moved it from inventory and transported it to the customer, we now have to do motion to literally hook up the computer and get it running. Does our customer care if we need to test the internet connection and go into the back room to ensure that the signal is coming clearly to the computer? Does our customer care that we need to do motion to connect the computer to a printer? Again, all our customer is looking for is to have a computer set up and working for them. It's our job to reduce the amount of waste, the motion waste in our process, to provide that service or product to our customers in an efficient manner. Therefore, reducing the waste and increasing the value in what we do. Waiting. This is one that we've all experienced. Waiting. Waiting in the customer's eyes is pure waste. Anytime a customer is sitting on hold, anytime a customer is waiting to hear back on a ticket or on a resolution, waiting to receive a product or service that they have requested, is pure waste in the customer's eyes. Again, it's our job as these providers to try to reduce the amount of waste or waiting that our customers are experiencing. We've all experienced this ourselves. In fact, on average, Americans will spend 6 years of their life waiting for something, whether it's waiting at a traffic light, waiting for a smoothie to be served, waiting in line to get into a restaurant. Waiting is a rampant waste within all organizations. And in Lean, our goal is to increase the speed of service so that our customers do not have to wait as long. Overproduction. Overproduction is producing more items than we need to immediately do our job. If we are creating products or developing services that our customers do not need, the resources that we are investing in creating those products and services is wasted. Customers don't care that we have services or products that they are not interested in or cannot immediately use. In a bigger picture, in a production line setup, or in a service provider setup where we may have to wait for approvals, it does not do the next person in line in the process any good to produce something if they are not ready to receive it or approve it, for example. This is overproduction. The next O in Tim Woods is overprocessing. Overprocessing is working on a product or service outside of the expectations of the customer. When a customer orders a product or a service, they have an idea. They have a concept. They know what they want and what they're looking for. At least they have some roundabout idea. Anything we do to provide this product or service to our customers in a way that is more glamorous or grandiose than what they are expecting is overprocessing. Again, because our customers want and are willing to pay for something very specific. And in order for us to reduce the waste in our process, we should give our customers exactly what they want, nothing more and nothing less. The D in Tim Woods is defects. We can all relate to defects. Defects is essentially when we do something and for whatever reason, the product we created or the service we provided doesn't work or it's broken. Or we hooked up a computer but we were unable to map the printer. So when our customer goes and sits there to try to print something, it just for some reason doesn't work. In the customer's eyes, these are defects. They seem basically self-explanatory when we are looking at waste. Our customers do view defects as pure waste. And they are on our side as well. And they'll wind up creating more work for the service provider to go back and then fix the defects. In Lean, the goal is to get down to 0 defects, eventually. Not overnight, but it's something that we can work towards. If we understand where we are with our defect rates, we're able to measure it, then we're able to improve on it. And finally, my personal favorite, the underutilization of skills. The underutilization of skills is apparent when an organization has talent and they're not utilizing that talent to its fullest. It's one of the reasons that we are all learning about Lean right now. Just by you taking this class, this organization has realized that they are not using the skills that all of their employees have, which is why we are educating everyone within the organization to, again, start thinking Lean. If everyone within the organization starts to think Lean, it has a snowball effect within the organization, and everyone will start to grow. The company will naturally start to reduce the waste within its process. This is why the underutilization of skills is the S in Tim Woods. So before we move on, just remember, if you want to start thinking Lean, you want to start adding more value to your customers, and you're not sure where to start, just think, that's right, Tim Woods. Let's do a quick knowledge check on the value concept and the 8 wastes that we have just reviewed. An employee in Northern California needs to have a printer set up on their existing computer. Here's the question. Identify the value-add steps from these options and this process below. A, the employee calls the service desk to request a printer. The service desk technician creates a work order. The work order sits in a queue waiting to be serviced. An ECS technician installs the printer. The printer did not work because the driver was not installed correctly. If you said D, you got the answer right. When the technician actually installs the printer, that is when the customer is receiving the value add within their step. Let's take a look at question 2. In the above scenario, what aspects of waste, Tim Woods, did we encounter? Did we see any instances of transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, defects, or the underutilization of skills? Well, the service desk technician created a work order. That's motion waste, right? They had to actually have movement within their process to complete their task at hand. The work order sat in a queue until someone resolved that. That resulted in the customer waiting, the work order itself waiting to be processed, right? Actually, even when the technician installed the printer, again, we had motion wastes. In E here, we can clearly see that there was a defect because the printer, in the end, did not work. What if we think even more high level? There had to be transportation in order to get the computer from wherever that computer was being stored to the customer. There had to be inventory because there was a computer in stock, in theory, where that computer was being held. So in every process that we do, Tim Woods is ever apparent. And if we as lean leaders want to start thinking and acting lean, all we need to do is start asking ourselves, within our process, where do we see Tim Woods? Moving on. We've talked about value. Value is determined within a customer's eyes. When we want to be lean, we're talking about increasing that value within our customer's eyes, offering more value to the customer. We know we can do that by reducing waste. We know that waste comes in 8 forms: transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overprocessing, overproduction, defects, and the underutilization of skills. But what actually causes those 8 wastes? The answer is variability. Variability within a process is what creates waste. And we're going to be introduced now to our second lean term, which is mura. Mura, again, is a Japanese term translating to variability. Variability within any type of process is going to throw off the rhythm of that particular process. Here's some examples of variables that we see in our everyday life. Anytime we have to stop what we are doing, that is a big variable in a process. An object in motion wants to stay in motion unless something stops it. That thing that stops it or slows it down or redirects it or challenges it in any kind of way is a variable. Let's look at an example or take an exercise within variability. Let's say it takes you 5 minutes to drive to work. Along the way to work, we are going to encounter variables like stop signs and rain, stoplights. We may have to stop and get gas. We may get a flat tire. Or we may encounter construction or other obstacles along the path, turning our 5-minute drive to work into a 25-minute drive to work. Our drive to work is extended because of the variables we encounter on our path to our job from when we leave the house. Now, there are things that we can do to improve this process and reduce the waste that we experience in our process of driving to work. For example, we can put Rain-X on our windshield, so the rain will not slow us down quite as much. We can ride in the carpool lane on the way to work to help us avoid traffic. We can drive a hybrid or electric vehicle so that we never have to worry about stopping for gas on the way to work. We can get run flat tires on our car so that we don't have to stop and pull over in the event that we get a flat tire. Now, while we are not necessarily always able to completely eliminate the occurrence of variability in a process, we can do things to reduce it and mitigate it, which overall reduces the waste that our customers encounter. And in this case, our customer is us while we are in the car on the way to work. The value that we are receiving is getting to work in a timely manner. Can you think of some variability in your daily task? And just think about it for a second. Were you doing something today, and then something came along and slowed you down or threw you off? Did you get a random email or a phone call? Did someone pop in and ask you how your weekend was? Did you get a request from your boss that took you off of an important project to go and work on an even more important or urgent project? These are all variables that occur in our daily process, which slows down our response time to provide our service or product to our customers. So again, when we're looking for ways to reduce waste, we always need to be vigilant in understanding the variability that is slowing us down or occurs in our daily process. Let's play the variability game. We've all done it. You go to the grocery store. You needed one item, pack of toilet paper. You're in a rush. You get your item and you run up to the checkout line. There's 2 lines open. There's a 10 items or less line with 7 or 8 people in it. And then there's a standard line with 1 person in it, with a cart that is heaping over the sides full of items. Which line do you choose? Now, when you're playing the variability game in the grocery store, what we need to do is look at the variables that we are encountering and ask ourselves, what are the potential variables that could create waste in my process of checking out in the line? Here's just a few variables that we may see as we're approaching this line. People and their interaction with each other is a big variable. The person doing the checkout may be new, may be very experienced. They may be able to get a lot of people through the line quickly. Or it could be their first day working the register. The actual scanning of the items is a variable. Every time someone has to grab an item, scan it, let it go. Grab another item, scan it, let it go. Those are variables that occur. We can count the number of items or variables that are in one big cart versus the 10 items or less line with multiple carts. Payment is another huge variable. Will people be paying with cash? Will people be paying with checks? Will people be paying with their card? Do they have some sort of a Fast Pay or Apple Pay? If you chose the 10 items or less line, what are the odds that that line's going to be moving faster and you're next in line and then the person in front of you pulls out a pocket full of nickels, pennies, and dimes to pay for their items? I don't know what the odds are, but it's happened. It's happened to me. It's probably happened to you. There really is not necessarily a right or wrong answer to this question, but generally, if we look at line 2, there are fewer variables. There is a variable of scanning. There may be more total items in that cart, but there are less variables total when you're looking at the variable game and the weight that those variables can impose on your process. So we talked about lean. We've defined lean as providing more value to our customers. We've talked about value and how to reduce the waste within a process in order to increase the value add that we do. And we understand that variability is what creates the waste in our process. The title of this section is an introduction to continuous improvement. So let's talk about that. What is continuous improvement? Well, there is that word continuous, meaning it is something that happens today and tomorrow, and essentially, as long as a process is implemented, that process should be continually improving over time. And because we are looking at improving a process over such a long period of time, we are not necessarily looking for home runs every time we walk up to the plate. What we are looking for is small, incremental improvements by eliminating waste within our process over time. That is the true essence of continuous improvement. Lean thinking trains us to start to see the little things within our tasks that slow us down from completing our task at hand. Continuous improvement is understanding and utilizing the lean processes that we will learn in this course and that you can develop over time. Lean thinking and implementing it in continuous improvement is about involving everybody within the process. We need to develop everyone within an organization, from the highest level executives to all employees that fall under them. Long-term goals. We're not looking for home runs, as I mentioned. We're not even necessarily looking for base hits in continuous improvement. What we're looking for is people to walk up to the plate and swing the bat. If we swing the bat enough times, we'll eventually hit that ball. If we hit the ball enough times, we'll eventually get on base. If we keep getting on base, we will score. That is a continuous improvement mindset. Its simplest definition, my favorite definition of what continuous improvement is simply making something better. Let's just do a quick, brief history on lean. There's only one slide. We're not going to read a whole book. But just a little bit about lean and where it came from. It did develop in craft production, but was really honed in on when we were starting to look at mass production, right? That Model T, the first Ford Model T that came off the line. The concept of using interchangeable parts and just creating an assembly line within a process is revolutionary. But that's not where the lean is. That's not where the lean was developed that we are thinking of today, right? We see a lot of Japanese terms in lean, and we'll be introduced to more Japanese terms as we go along in lean, because we know that lean came out of Toyota. Toyota picked up a lot of their lean terminologies or their lean methodologies coming out of World War II. In order to be competitive, countries had to reduce the waste in their ability to manufacture products in order to compete. Toyota, as a company, held on to everything that they learned over the years and implemented that in Toyota in the 1970s and 80s. That's where lean as we know it today was really honed in and mastered. Charles Deming eventually took that and said, let's apply this amazing lean methodology to other areas within industry, not just automobile manufacturing. This is such a great tool, we can apply this across the board, which is why we know that we can find the 8 wastes literally in any industry that we're in, whether it's making cars, making planes, providing healthcare, producing financial products, making lamps. It doesn't matter what we are making, lean will apply. And if we want to learn more about how Toyota did develop lean methodologies, there's a great book for you to read. It's called The Toyota Way. And in this book, The Toyota Way, they talk about TPS, the Toyota Production System. And this is where you'll have an opportunity just to read up and learn a lot more about some of the original lean thinkers of our time. You'll also find one of my favorite quotes by Taiichi Ohno, one of the founding fathers of lean, again, as we know it. Start with need. A lot of times companies say we want to get lean. They say, hey, we heard about this really cool concept of how we can give more value to our customers and get the waste out of our process, we'll increase our profits. But a lot of companies don't know where to start. This is why this is my personal favorite lean quote. Start with need. What's the first thing we need to do? Let's introduce ourselves to some lean terminology. And here's a fun word, Kaizen. Kaizen is a word you may or may not have heard by now. It's a very popular word when companies are moving towards a lean mindset. Kaizen is a Japanese word broken into two pieces, right? It's 2 different American words, English words combined. Kai meaning good, Zen meaning change, good change. We want to create a Kaizen, we want to create a good change within our process. Gemba. Gemba is a term for the place work happens. Often, groups or teams will be sitting together around a conference table talking about ways to improve a process. I don't know if it's happened to you, but it's happened to me, where that conversation could go off on a tangent where a lot of folks would be saying, I think it's this way, or I think it should be that way, or we should do that, or let's do this. The concept of the Gemba is to get out of that conference room and go to where the work is happening and watch. If that same group of people is watching the process together, watching it as it happens, watching it as it is occurring in real time, the value that they can provide to improving that process will be much more clear. Muri. Muri is not having the right tools to do our job. Not having the right tools to do our job. We may want to approach or fix a particular problem, and we may not have the support we need. We may not have the staff we need. We must have the right tools in our tool belt to do the job. Tact time. We'll talk more about this in later sessions. Tact time is essentially the amount of work we need to do to meet our customer demand. How many widgets do I need to make today to make all of my customers happy? And at what speed do I need to make those widgets? Again, we'll dive more into tact time in later sessions. Kanban. Kanban is the creation of a pull system within a production environment. A lot of times when we are producing things, we are making these things to stock, which leads to inventory. Inventory is one of the 8 wastes. Creating a Kanban system flips that around. And what it will do is it will mean that we will only create things when we need to create them. We'll learn more about Kanban and Kanban systems in later sessions. Affinity diagram. An affinity diagram is a great tool that a team can use when they are brainstorming and trying to bring ideas to the table or understanding root cause problems. Again, if you're sitting in a room with 10 to 12 people and everyone is shouting out ideas, it's hard to hear all of them. It's hard to give all of the ideas the attention that they deserve. And in fact, a lot of times, all 10 people may be screaming out the exact same idea. An affinity diagram is a tool to listen to every single idea in a room of 10 people in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. We'll talk more about affinity diagrams in later sessions on how to use them within your teams and be more effective in your team meetings. We'll do a quick knowledge check here. What does Gemba mean? A, is it a concept of variability? B, the place work happens. C, one of the 8 wastes. Or D, a type of production system. The answer was B. Again, the meaning of Gemba is the place work happens. It's all designed to get us out of our chairs and go observe the process that we are trying to improve. What is a major possible barrier for the value flow? Mura, Pokeyoke, Kanban, Jidoka. I'm sure everyone got that right. Mura, inconsistency or variation in our process leads to waste, leads to muda. That completes section 1A. Feel free to watch the next section, which is a video on process improvement. Thank you.